Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hello. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Ameen. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli waj'alni waziran min ahli Harun akhi ushud bihi azri wa ashrikuhu fi amri kay nusabbihaka kaseera wa naskuraka kaseera innaka kunta bina basira wala hawla wala quwwata إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Inshallah, we're going to continue with the seventh ray. Now we're at the second chapter of the seventh ray. This is about the traveler on his journey, just like you and myself, who are on a journey here. And let's dive right into it, because this is, I think, we'll figure out how in the first chapter it was more of an exploration and looking at the signs that pointed to the owner, the divine source, Lord of the universe. And now here, I think, and basically using the universe to come to the conclusion that, building the faith and belief based on the proofs and signs being observed in the universe. Now, the second chapter says, concerning proofs of the divine unity. Now, the traveler who had been sent to the world in order to attain faith, who journeyed through the whole cosmos in his mind in order to ask all things concerning his creator, to seek his sustainer in every place and find his God with the utmost certainty at the point of necessary existence. This traveler said to his intellect, "Come, let us depart on a new journey in order to behold the proofs of the unity of our necessarily existent Creator." So now the journey continues to behold the proofs of the unity. So how do we keep our belief continuously engaging with the universe and beholding it with all the proofs that are with us? So in order to behold the proofs of the unity of our necessarily existent Creator. So they set out together at the first stopping place. They saw four sacred truths prevailing over the whole cosmos. So there are four sacred truths prevailing over the whole cosmos. Truths that self-evidently necessitated the unity of God. The first truth, absolute divinity. The absorption of each class of men in a mode of worship dictated by their innate dispositions. So the absorption of each class of men in a mode of worship. Every class of men is absorbed in a mode of worship dictated by their innate dispositions. The species of worship engaged in by other animate beings. So there's worship by other species, by other animate beings, as well as inanimate beings, through the performance of their essential functions. Through the performance of their essential functions. So no matter what you're doing, Either you're conscious or you're not conscious. It is what is happening is worship. You look at a bird that is in the air, flying, drinking water, feeding on grain, chirping, whatever it's doing. Everything, the bird is actually performing worship. You look at the clouds moving, the sun shining is a form of worship. I go and drink water, I go and use my hands to do something, it's a form of worship. No matter what we do, according to the author, everybody's engaged and absorbed in a particular mode of worship. The way in which all material and immaterial bounties, the way in which all material and immaterial bounties and gifts in the cosmos become means inciting men to worship and thanks. Inciting men to worship and give thanks, to praise and gratitude. The fashion in which all the manifestations of the unseen and the epiphanies of the Spirit, the fashion in which all the manifestations of the unseen and the epiphanies of the Spirit, revelation and inspiration, unanimously proclaim the exclusive fitness of one God to receive worship. All of this, in most evidential fashion, proves the reality and dominance of a single and absolute divinity. The way in which all material and immaterial bounties and gifts in the cosmos become means, inciting men to worship and give thanks, praise, and grateful, gratitude, express gratitude. The fashion in which all the manifestations of the unseen, the fashion in which all the manifestations of the unseen and the epiphanies, epiphanies of the Spirit, so the revelation and inspiration that the Spirit incites, that the incitement that the Spirit gets, unanimously proclaim the exclusive fitness to one God to receive worship. All of this, in most evidential fashion, proves the reality and dominance of a single and absolute divinity. If the truth of such a divinity exists, it can in no way accept partnership. If the truth of such a divinity exists, it can in no way accept partnership. For those who respond to divinity, that is the fitness to be worshipped. Those who respond to divinity, that is what is fit to be worshipped, with thanks and worship, are the conscious and animate fruits on the highest branches of the tree of the cosmos. If others were able to gratify and place under their obligation those conscious beings in such a fashion as to make them turn away from and forget their true object of worship, if others were able to gratify and place under their obligation those conscious beings in such a fashion as to make them turn away and forget their true object of worship, who may indeed be swiftly forgotten because of his invisibility or ghaibi and hidden agency, this would be in such utter contradiction to the essence of divinity and its sacred purposes that it could in no way be allowed. This would in such utter contradiction to the essence of divinity and its sacred purposes that it could in no way be allowed. It is for this reason that the Qur'an so repeatedly and with such vehemence refutes polytheism and threatens the polytheists with hellfire. So that's the first truth. I think the author started off with everything that is in the universe is performing worship. And then he moves on to the response, those who respond, basically the conscious animate fruits on the highest branches of the tree of the cosmos. Who are these people? Anyone that is given consciousness and is with the ability to respond to all the gifts and bounties, all the things that they're benefiting from and enjoying, witnessing in this universe. So there's a difference between, I guess, a passive worship and an active worship that's being made here. So everything, by default, everyone is doing passive worship, but then there is a conscious effort that needs to be done in order to, that is only possible by conscious and animate beings in order to respond to whatever one is witnessing, absolute divinity. And that is why human beings especially are needed. It is needed for them to be reminded again and again, as the Quran keeps doing it, about what polytheism is and associating partners with divinity would be. So if anybody would like to add anything or state anything on the first truth, please feel free to do that. I think it's pretty understandable, nothing mysterious, or if there's any point anybody would like to highlight. So it's interesting how everything, material and immaterial, are all given existence and are the means for the human beings to respond back. Brother Ali, please go ahead. Brother Ali, I saw your hand up, but your mic is still muted.
Thank you. Yes, the statements, the sentences are straightforward. Yes, not very difficult to follow, although it is difficult for me to follow. Now, but the terminology used here is not easy, really. This is, for example, mode of worship dictated by their innate disposition. For example, I can ask this question: if my innate disposition is dictating me to worship, so am I really worshiping? Do I really feel to worship? What do you mean by worship? These are, interesting questions that I said we must talk about them. And also how the other inanimate beings are worshiping. What does worship mean? So that animate and inanimate beings, apart from human beings, are also worshiping. Really, it's a question. What do you think? Well, what do we understand from worship?
It's a good question. So basically acknowledging the one who, what you're witnessing is not exactly worship. One is acknowledgement. Worship should be a living and practicing kind of way, consciously living. And in that mode, whatever you're doing, you need to have that awareness of the absolute being, that this is presented and a gift from the one who is the owner of the universe. That is one way of worship, but in general, I would think that anyone, anything, doesn't matter how they're doing, whatever they're performing, even though they may be unaware, it is also a form of worship. Like, for example, following the order in the universe, living according to the order that is there present. But it's not an active, engaging form of worship. So although the innate disposition would dictate to wonder and question and respond back, that's how the human being, when they dig down deep into their innate disposition, looks for a response, giving a response back. That's what I would think. But would like to hear others also, whoever wants to respond.
I think since we're talking about innate disposition, I like to give an analogy of father and son. So as growing up as child, father's taking care of everything. I mean, any little details, bringing things, provision or anything, and you're grateful and thankful. So I think it's not even I'm living with the awareness, but I know I'm in the know of it. It's very obvious. So I'm very grateful. Not only grateful, but there's also this sense of security. If anything I need, I just reach out to the Father, kind of thing. And so worship is I'm living with a sense of comfort that I have a go-to support system for my personal any anxiety or worries.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not helpless. This hope, right?
Yep. So there's a point of support that you can always fall back to.
Exactly. So
there's a sense of security and comfort.
Exactly. Like this, it's really obvious. I'm very comfortable with that. Nobody can take that away from me. And so I think when we're talking about worship, is this feeling that I am in need of, the sense of security. Inshallah.
Thank you. Anybody else? It's an open question. No wrong answers. All right. Quite Sunday afternoon. Yes, Brother Ali, go ahead.
Yes, Sunday afternoon, the weather is hot. So summer is already here. So I feel so sleepy, but the subject is so interesting. So I cannot sleep, but really, if there was no class, I would be sleeping maybe. Okay. If you understand that worship is responding back to to my creator, let's put it in that simple way. It looks like, for example, let's say in the army, soldier and the commander. Now, commander asks him to do something, and soldier obeys and does it, whatever he is asked to do. That is an obedience, acknowledgement that you are the commander, I am the private soldier. So I obey what you say. That is one way of expressing what worship is. Every being in the universe is also responding back to their creator by obeying. You explained this, what they are asked to do. It means which kind of innate dispositions they have been given, their instinct, the way they are created. they act accordingly without contradicting their innate disposition, instincts, the way they are created. How about human beings? No, every being is obeying the way they are created, so acknowledging the creator by obeying it consciously, unconsciously, I don't know. I don't know what they are doing. I know I'm conscious of myself. Maybe a dog, for example, is conscious of it. I don't know. There is no need to argue. But he's obeying it. For example, he is created with the innate capacity to be loyal to his or its owner, the one who gives, the one who takes care of its need. Then he's so obedient. That is how he is created, and he is, or it is, performing how it is created. It doesn't contradict itself. How about me? That's what I see in the example of the dog. Am I contradicting myself? Okay, let me see my innate dispositions. I'm just thinking aloud. Let me see my innate dispositions. What are they? For example, I'm conscious of myself and my concerns, my feelings. I'm aware of it. So I have free will as well to choose to take notice of my consciousness and accordingly use my consciousness in the right way, which is again innate to me. My consciousness tells me that I am created. I cannot say that I created myself and I am a pointless and purposeless creature. I cannot say that. Everything is perfect in me, perfectly arranged. So whatever created me, gave me existence, my consciousness says, acknowledge it. I have free will to acknowledge or not to acknowledge. That is the matter of free will, not the matter of innate disposition. Innate disposition, either I worship the one who created me, it means I respond back to my creator, or if I choose not to accept that I am created, I correspond to whatever I think is the source of my existence. That is my worship. Do I have the option of not worshiping? No, it is innate to me. But I have the free will. I am not like a dog. A dog has no free will, so he has no option not to perform his correspondence in the right way. But I have. So my worship is to obey my innate disposition and do whatever the requirements of this disposition, innate disposition, so that I will perform it. I will choose to perform it. That is my consciousness, my feelings. How about my way of thinking? Then I have to think about my way of thinking as well. Oh, am I really using my brain to complete what it is required? It means make sense of my position in the world and accordingly come to the conclusion that, and choose to come to the conclusion that I am a created being, so I have to fulfill it. How? By acknowledging my creator. And also I have body. So how am I going to use my body? In order to fulfill the function of my body according to the innate disposition. It means respond back to your creator with your body. That is another type of worship. They all act, or I choose all of them according to my free will. I may say, okay, I understood that I have a creator, but I may choose not to respond back to him. My feeling said, yes, you have a creator, but I may not use, because of my free will, to respond back to the creator of my feelings. And also, I have the option, I may not perform my correspondence to responding back to my creator through my physical appearance. I am free to do that or not to do those things. So human worship is different from other creatures as far as we know, although we cannot be sure about the other creatures, what they are doing. Apparently, dog doesn't have a conscious, but as far as it is innate disposition, it is fulfilling it. Maybe it has its own way of consciousness of worshiping. I don't know. So I cannot claim anything about the dog, but I can claim about myself that I have my consciousness, I have my feelings, I have my reasoning, I have my body, and I have my free choice. I'm aware of the existence of these elements. So my worship should include all of them as far as I am concerned. It means I have to employ all of them in order to fulfill their function of responding back to their creator. That's why human worship is really very important. Human form of worship, for me, is very important. I shouldn't neglect some side of me in my act of worship, responding back. For example, I may worship intellectually, but not emotionally. I may not use my feelings in order to respond back and acknowledge their creator, so that I will act in order to confirm that the creator is the source of it, and my free will must choose. For example, while I am interested in something, I want to have it. So my feeling of having something under my possession must be responding back to the real possessor of the properties. Acknowledge this real possessor of the properties. That is worship, responding back. Look, I am owning this pencil, I'm using it, but I am not the real owner. You are the real owner, because I didn't create it. I used the opportunities you gave me and made the pencil, and I'm using it. Now, the source of the property is, the source of the existence of the property is you. I have to use it as a person who has received it as a gift from my creator. This consciousness and this practice of using the pencil is a form of worship. If I keep it, if I am aware of it, and if I choose to keep this consciousness alive and effective in my life, really, yes, this pencil is not mine, really. It is given to me as a gift. You can expand the examples of this kind of worship. Inshallah, this subject is divinity requires this worship. Of course, the paragraph continues other things. Doesn't really have the quality of divinity. So this, the divinity, the one who is really divine, should not share his divinity with other things, because divine must be, by definition, absolute. If something is not absolute in his self-existence, self-sustaining, then he cannot be divine. If something is divine, it means he is absolute. If he is absolute, then he cannot really transfer absolute quality to another thing, because absolute is absolute, existing, self-existing. Now, by definition, it cannot be transferred. So none of the creatures can have the, none of the creatures can have the quality of divinity. This is true for my conclusion. I'm not arguing whether God cannot do something. By definition, absolute is absolute. I cannot imagine that absolute is transferring this quality to another created being. If it's a created being, it cannot be absolute. It is logically contradictory. So there is no way to ask that, can God create another God, for example? Nonsense question. Contradictory, self-contradictory question. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, thank you, Brother Ali. So everything is a gift. My laptop is a gift. Pencil is a gift. Book is a gift. Eyesight is a gift. Everything. We can expand it, and that is how the worship can continue on, inshallah. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else would like to point out anything? All right, so let's move on to the second truth. Absolute Dominicality. So the first was divinity, now it's absolute Dominicality. The ubiquitous workings of a wise and compassionate hidden hand throughout the cosmos, especially in animate beings and their nurturing and development. Excuse me for that. Especially in animate beings and their nurturing and development, everywhere in the same fashion, and yet in a totally unexpected form, must be without doubt the emanation and light of an absolute Dominicality and a decisive proof of its reality. An absolute Dominicality cannot accept any partnership, for since the important aims and purposes of Dominicality, such as the manifestation of its beauty, the proclamation of its perfection, the revelation of its precious arts, and the display of its hidden accomplishments, are combined and concentrated in particulars and animate beings. The slightest attribution to God of a partner, when entering even the most particular of things and the smallest of animate beings, will frustrate the attainment of those purposes and destroy those aims. The slightest attribution to God of a partner when entering even the most particular of things and the smallest of animate beings will frustrate the attainment of those purposes and destroy those aims. Averting the faces of conscious beings from those purposes and the one who conceived them towards causes will be totally opposed and hostile to the essence of Dominicality. And absolute Dominicality cannot in any way countenance it. Averting the faces of conscious beings from those purposes and the one who conceived them towards causes will be totally opposed and hostile to the essence of Dominicality, and absolute Dominicality cannot in any way countenance it. The abundant proclamations in the Qur'an of God's sanctity and transcendence, its verses and words, even its letters and their shapes, are constant guides to God's unity, made necessary by the mystery we have just expounded. All right, so that is the second truth. So the ubiquitous workings that we observe of a wise and compassionate hidden hand throughout the cosmos. So whatever the functioning of in the universe, as we've journeyed through in the first chapter, shows that somebody or something must be absolute, is working and displaying, manifesting its qualities to conscious beings. And whoever is in charge can in no way divert the attention of conscious beings in terms of the way the universe is functioning, the way it's set up, the way our innate disposition, as we've been discussed in the first truth, always takes us to the absolute being. The signs in the universe, all the happenings take us, all the effects that we notice take us to that belongs to the work of an absolute being. So it's only the human free will, I would say, that can divert its attention and direct the worship to something else other than the absolute being. So that's why the abundant proclamations of the Qur'an of God's sanctity and transcendence, its verses and words, even its letters and their shapes, are constant guides to God's unity, made necessary by the mystery we have just expounded. Yes, it's interesting. So all the revelations of its precious arts and the display of its hidden accomplishments are combined and concentrated in particulars and animate beings. So all those qualities that we observe in the universe, in particular and animate beings, are direct signs of his dominicality, of its absoluteness, which we have to see. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, I think the emphasis, the first sentence of the second paragraph, an absolute dominicality cannot accept any partnership, for instance, the important aims and purposes of dominicality, such as the manifestation of its beauty, the proclamation of its perfection, the revelation of its precious arts, and the display of its hidden accomplishments, are combined and concentrated in particulars and animate beings. the slightest attribution to God of a partner, when entering even the most particular of things and the smallest of animate beings, will frustrate the attainment of those purposes and destroy those aims. So first of all, again, just like in the first truth, there was this emphasis on if the truth of such a divinity exists, it can in no way accept partnership. Just keeps drawing my attention to what is it that I attribute the power to give existence to something, to be it any quality or anything. And so I think the aim and purposes for anything that's in existence, including my feelings, is really for me to, I think, respond back or be in a mode of worship, which is dictated by my innate disposition, because that's how I'm made in a way.
Yeah.
So I think going back to what you were saying, so I think this is an interesting.
Yep. So those purposes and aims that the whole universe is for is destroyed in a way.
Yeah.
Because whatever we are attributing has to go to the right source.
Because things are presented to me, like you're saying, for a purpose and for an aim, and so I can destroy it with the way I use my.
So how many times are we destroying and frustrating, the purposes and the aims? Something to think about.
Yep, it's a good thing to think about. It's
an interesting wording. Frustrate the attainment of those purposes and destroy those aims.
You highlighted that.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Brother Ali. Please go ahead.
Now here again, there's something strange. In the beginning of the second paragraph says, an absolute Dominicality cannot accept any partnership, for since the important aim and purpose of Dominicality, and such as the manifestation of its beauty, the proclamation of its perfection, the revelation of its precious arts, and the display of its accomplishment are, or the sentence continues, and concentrate in particulars and animate beings, the slightest attribution to God of a partner when entering even the most particular of the things and the smallest of animate beings will frustrate the attainment of those purposes and destroy those aims. Oh God. Okay, I respect the translator. Because the original language is like this. I think somebody should break this into smaller, shorter sentences. Okay, my point was this. Why absolute Dominicality cannot accept? It is strange the way the author speaks in this way, because as far as my experience with the author is concerned, the author uses usually the method the Qur'an uses. So he's imitating the Quranic way of explaining and presenting the subjects or any subject matter. So Qur'an says God is jealous. Qur'an says God is not going to let the human being worship somebody else. It is famous among some people that the Muslim God is a jealous God, Muslim God is an angry God, etc. According to the apparent literal meaning of the language of the Quran, that is correct. Yeah, God is an angry God. God always frowns at people and says, okay, I will destroy you. Mostly, it speaks in this way. If you don't really do what your, again, innate disposition requires, it means the way I created you. If you contradict the way I created you, you will come to me, and I know what I am going to do to you. This kind of threatening question. Of course, here also God cannot really accept any partnership. As if the language demonstrates that the author is speaking from God's perspective. God cannot do it. No, this is the method of the Quran. In the Quran, God speaks, but he speaks to human beings, and he gives the guidance. He speaks from his perspective, God's perspective, but he tells me what I should understand from it. What is that? My understanding of God must be such that his quality of Dominicality is absolute, and absolute Dominicality, I should conclude that absolute Dominicality cannot accept any partnership. That is, I have to turn the conversation from my side. For example, again, come back to our army example. The general says, go and do this. The soldier says, yes, sir. You ask me to go and to do this, I'm going to do that. Okay? Responding back. I mean, commander says, go and do that or this thing. Soldier doesn't say, go and do that thing. So soldier receives the message, and from his perspective, responds back to the commander. Yes, I am going to do it, sir. Yes, accept it, and my salutations to you. Now, exactly the same way, because of the manifestation of the absolute Dominicality in the universe that I observe, I have to acknowledge that this absolute Dominicality cannot accept any partnership. That is my conclusion, should be my conclusion. I should never think that, oh, God says he cannot accept any partnership for himself. It doesn't mean, it means that I'm speaking on behalf of what and saying that God, God, who is the absolutely dominion one over the universe, he says he cannot accept it. That is as if that is his inability to accept it. No, from my perspective, if the Dominicality is absolute, the first paragraph puts it, everywhere at the same time, same qualities are manifested. It was ubiquitous, workings of a wise and compassionate being. Everywhere and every time, all the qualities manifest at the same time. And these qualities demonstrate that they are absolute, because limited quality cannot be acting at the same time everywhere all the time with no exception. Must be absolute. If I conclude that this Dominicality, or all over, swaying all over the creation at the same time, the universe at the same time, I must conclude that this cannot accept any partnership. So, because if it is absolute, there should be nothing in the world who has the quality of Dominicality. Then Go and see the universe. Is there anything in the world, in the universe that I can see which has a dominion power on the existence of anything? It means creates something and owns it and makes it subjugated to its own his own will. Is there anything? Everything is the slave of the established order, the way it is created. I have to obey the way I am created. I have to obey the way the universe is created. My relationship with me will be based on obedience of the order of the universe. It means Dominicality, with no exception, is everywhere manifesting it. That must be my conclusion. Divine Dominicality, which is the absolute, it means absolute Dominicality, doesn't have any partnership. That is what absolute Dominicality deserves to be. And that will be my conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ali. It's interesting how you kind of broke it down a little bit. So this is again an absolute Dominicality, cannot accept any partnership. I think from how you explained it is how the Quran also presents it that way. When it says, don't worship anything besides me, expressing the fact that it's not acceptable when you see that everything that is coming, how in the first paragraph he shows all over the place at the same time, everywhere, continuously happening, all the different qualities show that they are coming from me. So that should be my conclusion when I read such kind of phrases. It's a good point that you kind of into that. Brother Ali, go ahead.
Yeah, I intended to emphasize on the importance of the language of the Quran, but I forgot it because the subject is about Dominicality. So, for example, Quran speaks in an angrily, God speaks in an angry way, that if you really disobey my prophet, I will really beat you up, burn you forever. You will be sorry. It was angry God. Yeah. No. I should take it from my perspective and say that if I don't obey and don't worship the absolute creator, my creator, I must be doing something which deserves to be angry. It means I will be doing a very bad thing, so that anybody, when they see me, any person like me, if they see me that I am, for example, beating up some innocent people, the people around me, what do? I mean, in America, they call police. And the police comes and catches me and angrily punishes me and puts me in jail. That is an angry attitude, not happy attitude. While they are putting me in jail, they don't laugh. That is why we have been given the sense of anger. Of course, I should disapprove, I should react if something is happening not right. That is how I am created. And God is saying, use this sense of anger to in the field that if somebody does something, including yourself, do something which contradicts your reality, you have to be your innate disposition. You must be angry with yourself. That's not what God is angry. The sense of anger is given to me in order to be angry, even if it is me who is doing it, it's something wrong, unjust, unfair. I must do it. For example, if I say, for example, something is really taking care of my life, apart from, oh, that daily language, put it aside. Put daily language aside. Apart from the creator of the universe, who is taking care of my life? Who has this power to do that? If I say nature is taking care of my life, what does it mean? I did an unjust action or preference. It needs to be angry at. So I have to be angry. If I do this, I have to be angry with myself. And if somebody else does it, I have to be angry. That is why in the Quran, because it is own nature, because of its own nature, God is speaking. God must speak from his perspective and give the message to the human beings, addressee, the one who reads or he hears the message. So when God says, I will put you in hell, it means if if you do this, he will put you in hell. Okay. If I disobey, for example, his message, his prophet, I would say, I need to be in hell. Look, I need to be put in hell. This action deserves to be punished. That is what my sense of punishment. Everywhere the courts are there. Everywhere the prisons are there. Everywhere the police forces are there. Why? Because if something happens in an unjust way, they need to be, first of all, stopped and also taken to court to be punished. We have to really give examples of the Quran, how to read it. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, thank you for sharing all that. Would anybody else want to share anything? All right, so let's go to the third truth. Perfections. The self-evident testimony to the existence of the truth of perfections given by all the exalted instances of wisdom in the universe. All its wondrous beauties, its just laws, its wise purposes, and in particular its testimony to the perfections of the Creator, who brought forth the cosmos out of the void and then administered it in every way, miraculously and beauteously, as well as the perfections of man, who is the conscious mirror of the Creator. Such testimony is extremely clear. So the self-evident testimony to the existence of the truth of perfections, truth of perfections, which is given by all the exalted instances of wisdom in the universe, all its wondrous beauties, its just laws, its wise purposes. There are certain laws, beauties, purposes that are actively happening in the universe, and in particular its testimony to the perfections of the Creator, who brought forth the cosmos out of the void, and then administers it in every way, miraculously and beauteously, as well as the perfections of man, who is the conscious mirror of the Creator. Such testimony is extremely clear. There exists then the truths of perfections, and the certainty that the Creator, who fashioned the cosmos in perfection, who fashioned the cosmos in perfection, must himself possess perfection. Further, the perfections of man, the most important fruit of the universe, vicegerent of the earth, the beloved and most valued object of his creation, these are also established as true. There exists then the truth of perfections and the certainty that the Creator, who fashioned the cosmos in perfection, must himself possess perfection. Further, the perfections of man, the most important fruit of the universe, vicegerent of the earth, and beloved and most valued object of his creation, the perfections of man, these are all established as true. Therefore, to assign partners to God would be unacceptable and false, for it would condemn to destruction and perdition all of the perfect and wise beings as we behold with our eyes. It would turn the cosmos into a vain plaything of accident, a place of amusement for nature, a place of amusement for nature, a cruel slaughterhouse for the animate, an awesome house of sorrows for the conscious. It would reduce man, whose perfections are visible in his works, to the level of the most wretched, distraught, and vile animal. And it would draw a veil across the infinite perfections of the Creator that are reflected in the mirror of all beings, thus nullifying the result of his activity and denying his creativity. That is, it would draw a veil across the infinite perfections of the Creator that are reflected, perfections of the Creator that are reflected in the mirror of all beings, thus nullifying the result of his activity and denying his creativity. Since assigning partners to God contradicts divine, human, and cosmic perfections, and its denial of them has been established and explained in the first station of the second ray, devoted to three fruits of divine unity, with strong and decisive proofs. We refer our readers to that work and cut short the discussion here. So this is the third truth of perfections. So divinity, absolute Dominicality, and now perfections, which is the third truth, absolute perfection. And this again starts off with the witnessing and testimony of the qualities that are in existence, and they show signs of perfection. Everything has wisdom, knowledge, power that is being displayed, beauties, art, laws, purposes. Even purpose shows every quality. The beauty also shows perfection. Laws that are operating the order in the universe shows perfection. The wisdom shows perfection. And then again, are all testimonies to the one who gives existence to the universe, to his perfection. And if man looks at himself also as all the qualities that are given to man show that everything, each quality is perfect on its own. And that forms a clear indication of the perfection of an absolute one. So there exists then the truths of perfection and the certainty that the Creator who fashioned the cosmos in perfection So whoever fashioned the cosmos in perfection must himself possess perfection. Further, the perfections of man, the most important fruit of the universe, also shows that. Any comment by anyone or anything that anybody would like to highlight here in this third truth of perfections?
Yeah, I think same goes again with the conclusion. So I conclude on my end that to assign partners to God would be unacceptable and false. For it would condemn my existence to complete destruction and the existence of anything that I'm interacting with. So even everything then becomes purposeless if I can find anything possessing divine qualities of perfection in the universe, then what's the point of I don't know, of fulfilling any purposes or aim? It's interesting because on page 74 it says it becomes then a place of amusement, cruel slaughterhouse. Like, what is it? The death is that's it.
Condemned to destruction.
Here, like, eating good stuff, entertaining myself, and then annihilation, or that's it. Seems a little interesting. And so then, yeah, it becomes definitely a sorrowful state of being. It would reduce man to the level of the most wretched. Yeah. So yeah, I think going back to what Badani was saying about this is my conclusion that something, if I conclude something to be absolute, then it cannot accept any partnership.
Thank you, Fariha. Okay, yeah, I think Fariha, you were a little distant away, so your voice was not reaching properly.
Okay, inshallah, I'll try.
Thank you for the reminder. Yep. All right, so any other comment? Not. Brother Ali, thank you. Go ahead.
This time, not comment, but question. The last sentence of the first paragraph says, man, the perfection of man. This is important, the author says, because the men are the conscious mirror of the Creator. What does it mean? Conscious mirror of the Creator. What do you understand from it?
All right, good question. Fariha, you wanna?
Yeah.
Can you get closer, please?
I think this goes back to the first truth when we were talking about innate disposition. Or, yeah, my innate disposition pretty much has this potentiality of knowing exactly what to do. So I have this within me where I can respond and acknowledge the source of my existence. So I think in that way, man is really a mirror to what the source of its existence is conveying or communicating.
So you're saying in a way man is given all the tools and the ability to communicate with the source of its existence.
Yeah, I mean,
all the qualities that man has been given.
Yeah.
Right. All the names are, as it says in the Qur'an, and he taught Adam all the names. So man has been taught all the names. So man has possesses that potentiality to convey back, revert back, respond back to all those names, acknowledge the owner of the universe by all those qualities, all those names.
True. Because all these, everything is happening within the human being. So the feelings, emotions, or this need of acknowledging the source of existence or any qualities also happening within. So even the meaning that is extracted. So I think, just like you said, to add on, man has this potentiality.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Anybody else?
Isn't it obvious this in this sentence that the human beings are being conscious, not only mirror, but conscious mirror? Oh, that is amazing. That puzzles me personally always. I mean, some people in the world, and not in few in number, they confuse this subject and they claim that human beings are, in fact, God. But they don't mean that human beings created the universe. They said God is in human being. I think they confuse this subject because being no, Asim, not image of God. I mean, image of God is Islamic side of it. It's the conscious mirror of the creator, image of God. But they don't say image of God. God is within human being. So everybody conclude that everybody is a God, not the God that who created the universe. Suhail says, drop in the ocean. Yeah, like that. That's more like what Suhail said. Although difficult to understand this process, how the deviation takes place in the minds of the people, we have to be very careful. First of all, we are so precious beings, but we are just mirrors. Mirror in and of itself has no quality, what it reflects in it. We are mirrors, but we are such mirrors that puzzles human minds. We are conscious of what we are reflecting in us. It is amazing. It is unimaginable. How can I describe it? That is why people think that we can describe human beings as God. Excuse me. So they say God is inherited, if you like, in human being. That is those people who say this, they don't really look for a God who is the creator of the universe and therefore the creator of human beings and who is reflecting his qualities in human being, but they themselves, the human beings themselves, have no quality of themselves, but just in the example, on the analogy of mirror, a glass. Glass has nothing to do what it reflects in the glass, but they ignore the glass nature of human beings. Created has no quality of itself, himself, herself, but reflects all the qualities of the creator. That is why the human beings are the best examples as far as we are concerned. the best examples of the perfection of the Creator, because we are aware of it. Although the text makes somehow comparison, but I would, because of the requirements and sensitivity of this age, I would avoid making comparison, saying that I'm better than dogs or plants. There is no need to make comparison, but I understand that I am a conscious mirror of the Creator. Conscious mirror. So my responsibility comes from consciousness, my consciousness. I am given this quality which is worth everything. Can you imagine you lost your consciousness? If I lose my consciousness, I am worth nothing. Although the mirror reflects everything, but the glass mirror has no consciousness. It has nothing to do with the things, object that reflected itself in it. But since I am conscious of it, it really brings a big responsibility for me. Not heavy responsibility, but a pleasant responsibility. Like a mother taking care of the child lovingly. So I have to use my consciousness and keep it alive, not to turn into negligence and ignorance, but I have to keep this consciousness and use it, utilize it, what it necessitates. What does it necessitate? Of course, I have to acknowledge and I have to first acknowledge that all these perfections manifested in me do not belong to me. This is one, the first stage. Second stage, so search for the source of these qualities. Third stage, find out and acknowledge the real owner of these qualities. That is acknowledgement. But further than this, fourth or fifth stage, go back and respond, return these qualities consciously by using your consciousness back to their real owner. That is worship. That is how the worship becomes necessary for me, because my consciousness requires it. If I do something wrong, I am ashamed of it. If I do something right, I feel pleasant about it. I enjoy it. So practically, if I am conscious that all the perfections manifested in me belongs to the one who is the source of perfection, creator of everything, then I have to consciously correspond with him and respond back to him, saying that these perfections belong to you. It means all the human perfections must be used in acknowledgement of their real owner. I cannot say that I am seeing, but I have to accept that the power of sight, which is given to me, does not belong to me. This is given to me. So when I see, there is strange expression that the people misunderstand. When I see, it is not me. God is seeing me. It is not that I am God, but the real owner of the power of sight, which is reflected in me, is not me, but the creator of the universe. Acknowledge it. So this expression, this kind of language may be misunderstood. That's why we shouldn't, arbitrarily use it everywhere and with anybody, but we have to explain it and practice it. When I am seeing, I must be aware that God is seeing. Now, this is very important. I mean, this is a very subtle subject, delicate subject. To be conscious of this, aware of this reality, really elevates human beings to the highest level of existence. Inshallah, one day we may be successful about this consciousness, level of consciousness, inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Ali. It's interesting that you're mentioning this. And I see it's not me that's seeing, but my creator is seeing. I'm having a, how do you digest this? How? What is that? How can I really make it experiential? When I see, it's not me who's seeing, but my creator is seeing. Like, what does that mean? When I'm tasting, it's not me who's tasting. My creator is tasting. That sounds very foreign language to me.
Okay, let's hear from Suhail. Go ahead, Suhail.
Assalamu alaikum. You know, what's interesting in this truth is that he's talking about perfections, and perfections is not something that, you know, especially in the modern age, trying to find imperfections, I guess, in oneself. You know, oh, why is this there? Or why is that there? Why does man have this organ or that organ? Or it could have been this way or that way. Or, and you know, because you can only have one or the other. If something is perfect, then it's not imperfect. If something is imperfect, then it's not perfect. It's one or the other. And you know, one can only look at existence and observe that things are perfect because they're arranged in a particular order. It may not be the order that I may like sometimes, but it's an order that's perfect. That's perfection in and of itself. And it's perfection because in that order, even if I don't like it, it takes me somewhere. It takes me to an ultimate aim, to a definitive end. And that's what he's talking about. I think, you know, the exalted instances of wisdom in the universe. Because for me, as I try to understand the world, those wisdoms are important, not for me to get stuck in the world, but to take me beyond the world, which is interesting. As Ali Imran was saying, you know, being a conscious human being, that's perfect too, because while I exist in this world, I can go beyond this world to my ultimate aim, without actually necessarily being there. You know, my body is here, but you know, my spirit can go beyond it. There isn't anything more perfect than that, because it's in that arrangement that I'm able to get beyond the world. I'm able to know something beyond the world. You know, and if somebody acknowledges that, then it's impossible, if you know, if one is honest with the self, that they can ascribe that to any divinity, to the world itself, because you know, I have nothing to do with the existence of myself or anything else in the world, or those perfections, really, the existence of those perfections, nor does anything else in the world either. So you know, it's I mean, I guess modern age is full of contradictions, because people do try to study order. They do sort of implicitly understand that there is perfection in the world, the existence of the world, or how it's made, because of its ultimate aim, where it leads man to its source, to its creator, to its originator. And while recognizing that, I guess people don't take the next step. And that really is sort of, that's in a way delusion, or I guess if you're conscious of making that choice of not trying to take the next step, then I guess you're self-deluding. You're deluding yourself, and by choice being blind to the truth. Or as he says, this testimony is extremely clear. I mean, it's undeniable. Nobody, I mean, people choose to deny and they choose to cover up the truth, but you can't, you know, you can block the sun's light from reaching you, but that does not negate the existence of the sun and its light.
Thank you, Suhail.
Can we ask Brother Ali what he meant by?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
Faria, go ahead.
Oh, you're unmute. Okay, yeah. So I'm still trying to understand what Brother Ali shared about when I'm seeing it's really not me who's seeing. Like, wow, that's sounds good, but like, how does it make sense, or how can I make sense of it? What does that mean?
Yes, yeah, go ahead, Brother Ali. Or Suhail.
No, I couldn't get the question or the subject.
So you were mentioning that when I'm seeing, it's not me who's seeing.
To be a conscious mirror.
Yeah, like even practically, I'm trying to understand this. Or when I'm tasting, it's not me who's tasting. Like, or yeah, we can start with just the power of sight. When I'm seeing, it's not me who's seeing. So what is seeing then? Like, what does that mean?
Now I am consciously choosing to let my creator's quality manifest in me and acting in me, because I can choose, but I cannot act. I cannot create. It means act means really act of creation, not act of choosing. Choosing doesn't have a physical existence. Human free will, it's a magnificent subject. We are given this quality, but we cannot really create it what we want. We just want it. It means we are the beggars. Well, I use this expression. We are the petitioners. It means I am conscious as a glass. And in the glass manifests the power of sight. Example, okay? Now, glass says, I am aware of this quality, that power of sight is manifesting in me. I want to use it. I want to experience it. When I see it is God who is seeing it, I am experiencing God's sight. But I just, because I am a conscious being, I just express my need for it, to practice it. Of course, in our practical daily life, negates this. Why? Because we are so much used to saying that I am doing, I am seeing, I have this one, I don't like, I like, etc. That is why we have to refresh ourselves. Anyway, I have to stop here now.
I see what you're saying, Brother Ali. Thank you for clarifying
that.
that.
That was helpful. Thank you.
All right, I think we can.
Inshallah, I'll see you on Monday.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah from me.
Inshallah. So I think next week we won't have these sessions. So just wanted to know.
Oh, yeah, this announcement is needed, but all the, maybe Suzanne may not know it, the rest know it, but you can tell and explain. I will, inshallah, I won't forget, I will send out saying that the discussion's canceled, but in this room, Zoom, in this room, we will inshallah 10:30 Saturday, 10:30 Sunday, we will have other sessions, Sister Suzanne. Yeah?
Yeah, it's a different
I think
Zoom link. Yeah.
Yeah, I will give you the link, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
So, all right, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. See you tomorrow.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. 6:30 tomorrow.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wahum alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.